I had 2 showings within a day. You just get that 3rd floor rent. You could just get that 3rd floor rent. What's another one? You think mine's awful?
Yeah, I checked the list. There's dozens of garages with special use. When I rent, you don't talk about it being a living quarter.
I don't, because I'm hoping it's office up there. I think we'd probably get the price we're asking if it's office up there. It's business, the whole thing. And it's zone B2, so.
I thought maybe you didn't have legal right to have those.
Oh, no, it's all legal. I put the picture, we had to put the pictures in, but. I got an email this morning through CoStar from Cheng Hua he's an engineer in China, and he wants to buy it right away. And I should recommend an attorney. I know, I thought about sending it back to you saying, John, you want to take this one? No. Well, I won't even respond. You know, that comes through.
Well, you said about our other encounter, didn't you, when she was showing the property?
Did you see that one? That guy downtown was bouncing checks all over downtown, and yeah, he was in Racine. He flooded their jail, and he called, nice guy, referred to me by somebody downtown, wanted to see our place before it was listed. So Tom went with me to get into Waukesha, and I looked him up on the way in, and he just got out of jail.
Yeah.
Scary.
Well, at least you work with the training.
No, that was my last guess.
I don't have an excuse.
No, this is another one. I got a nice letter from that attorney. I did. Or whatever.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the town of Waukesha. Tonight is March 23rd, 2020. This is a special town board meeting. We are called to order, and if you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Kathy.
Chairman Fisher.
Here.
Supervisor Radke.
Here.
Supervisor German.
Here.
Supervisor Durr.
Here.
Supervisor Stigler.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is open meeting law compliance check. The agenda was posted on the three town public notice boards, the town website, and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on or before Friday, March 20th, 2020. Kathy, is that an accurate statement?
That is.
Okay, item 4, reports in your packet for review. We're going to do this a little bit differently tonight. They're simply there for people to review. If you have any concerns, comments, or questions, you can follow those up electronically. I believe you have a DPW report, a fire department report, and I don't think we have the sheriff's department report yet.
I believe we do.
We do indeed.
I believe it's in there.
Okay,
yes.
that's in there, so we have all those, so you can follow up on those if you so choose with the clerk, treasurer by email. Before we go any further, I want to just take just 1 minute to take time out and just acknowledge Supervisor Radke. He doesn't know I was going to do this tonight, but he has served the town of Waukesha here with distinction since 2014, I believe, right, Jim? 6 years of service. So on behalf of everyone in the town of Waukesha, thank you for your many years of devoted service to the town.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Minutes, we have 2 sets of minutes to act on tonight. The first is the meeting of December 30th, 2019, which was a special meeting. I believe that Mike and Jim, you were both absent from that meeting, so I think that's just Bob, David, and I. Is that correct? So is there action to take on approval of those minutes?
I'd move to approve those minutes.
I second it.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Stigler, second by Supervisor German to approve the minutes of the special meeting of the Town Board of December 30th, 2019. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Then the minutes of January 20, I'm sorry?
And 2 abstentions?
2 abstentions, sure. I guess not voting because they were not present, so just recorded as 3-0. That copacetic. All right, then we have the meeting minutes of the meeting of January 23rd, 2020. If I'm not mistaken, everyone was present for that meeting.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of January 23rd, 2020.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion has been made by Supervisor Radke, seconded by Supervisor German to approve the minutes of the meeting of January 23rd, 2020. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Number 7 is to announce a closed session. Number 1, you are hereby notified that the Town Board of the Town of Waukesha will convene and may upon motion duly made and seconded and acted upon by roll call vote as required under Wisconsin Stats 19.851G. Go into closed session during the course of the meeting. Town board members may attend the closed session. The purpose of the closed session will be as follows: to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning a strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, specifically to discuss border protection and non-compliant properties. Is there a need to go into closed session tonight? If there is, someone could make a motion to do so.
Chairman, since the court has decided to push back all of our court dates, the non-compliant properties do not need to be discussed today.
Okay, does anyone see a need? If you can certainly make a motion. Is there a need to go into closed session? Okay, hearing no such motion, we'll move on to item 8, discussion and possible action. We've got items A through G on our agenda. Item A is discussion and possible action on the purchase of a John Deere 310 SL backhoe loader. You've got information in your packet. I will tell you, just to try to minimize the number of people assembled tonight, I actually asked Jerry Noley to be available by telephone rather than being here present. I will put him on speakerphone here, assuming he answers if there are any questions of him. So while I'm
Mr.
dialing
Chairman,
him up
I'll
here,
make
you
a
go ahead.
motion to table the item 8A, discussion and possible action on the purchase of a John Deere 310 SL backhoe loader.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay,
And that would be to a date uncertain, given our current environment.
okay. Then we will proceed to vote. Is it? Yep, Jerry, I told him I'd put you on the phone. We're at item 8A. Supervisor Durr has made a motion to table to an uncertain date. Have I got that correct, Mike?
Yes,
Any
sir.
action on the purchase of the backhoe loader? That motion was seconded by Supervisor Radke, I believe. And I believe motion of this nature is not for discussion, so we will proceed then to vote immediately on that motion. So if everybody understands, the motion is to table any action on this to a date uncertain. Is that, have I correctly stated the motion? Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, I have 3 voting aye, Supervisor Durst, Supervisor Radke, and Chairman Fisher, and I have 2 noes, Supervisor Stigler and Supervisor German. All right, moving on to item 8B, discussion and possible action on award of 2020 road paving bid. You have information in your packet on that, I believe. And again, Engineer Janelli is not here tonight. Kathy, do you just want to review quickly? I know you were present at the bid opening. I think it's pretty self-evident, but we received 3 bids. Is that accurate?
That's correct. I wasn't at the bid opening.
Oh,
but,
okay.
I did report it to you.
Okay.
Wolf Paving's bid was $268,182.50. Stark Pavement Corporation was $279,305.75, and Payne and Dolan's was $284,917.25.
All right. And if I'm not mistaken, we had in our budget for this, we had $250,000, and I believe you've indicated then as well, we do have some funds from the grant money in the approximate amount of
Over 19,000.
$19,000. So that would give us $269,000, which is incredibly close to that low base bid. And I don't have it in front of me, I believe that low base bid was incredibly close to Engineer Janelli's cost estimate prior to bid.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to table item 8B, discussion and possible action on award of the 2020 road paving bid.
Before that's seconded, you do have a deadline in the packet to accept this, or you'll.
Yep,
So
let's,
you should act to deny it or approve it, because if you don't act on it, I will have no way of knowing what it means if we don't hold a meeting.
it's, and I believe Engineer Janelli, and assuming that's according to the documents, they're guaranteed apparently until May 18th, 2020, so that would be 30 days. Is that correct, or do we need to take a look at that?
No, I
assume
assume
he's
you're correct.
represented that.
That just means you have to hold a meeting between now and May 18th.
Well, either that or the bid's lapse, right?
I don't know, does it say that?
Well, let's take a look.
I don't know if there's a default in the contract. I don't like the bid specs, and I don't mean
No, I
that in a
understand.
negative way.
No, I understand that. Fair enough. Let's take a
I just know there's a deadline.
look and see if we can
I
find
don't
that.
think that's in this. Oh, it would have been in the old packet.
Well, maybe we should just take a minute here so we get it right. Can you go and get the bid packet for that? We'll take a minute.
I mean, I wasn't as concerned on the spec, because that's just a spec, there's no deadline on the spec, you know. If when you come to accept it, they may change that number, that's different than the public bidding documents and everything that's.
Let's just take a look.
Does that make sense? You might say, why, I'm not being consistent, because you didn't have a problem with tabling the proposal. I used the word proposal for the piece of equipment.
That number may come in lower too, in your estimate or your bid, because you're in undercutting road base problems or something like that. And that could enhance or decrease that number too, so I hope you all realize that.
Yeah, well, we gotta hang in there a minute, Jerry, because we're actually dealing with a different item. I do see bids remain subject to acceptance. All bids will remain subject to acceptance for the period of time stated in the bid form. So we're gonna look at the bid form, and the bid form says. Well, the bid form, as I read it under Article 2 bidder's acknowledgement, says bidder accepts all of the terms and conditions of the instructions to bidders, including without limitation those dealing with the disposition of bid security. The bid will remain subject to acceptance for 60 days after the bid opening or for such longer period of time that bidder may agree to in writing upon request of owner. So that said, these bids came in last Thursday, is that correct? So, that would appear to make some sense if we go back to Mr. Janelli's letter of recommendation. He advises at the bottom of it, bids remain subject to acceptance until May 18th, 2020, unless bidder agrees to an extension. So that bid security is in place until then, so that's consistent. That's the 60 days from March 18th. So there's a motion to table. Clarify the motion again. It was to a date uncertain? Okay, is there a second to the motion to table the award of the 2020 road paving bid to a date uncertain?
I'll second.
Okay, again, there's no discussion on this item. The motion is to table action on the award of contract for the 2020 road paving bid to a date uncertain. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
No.
Okay, I have that motion failing with Supervisor Durr and Supervisor Radke voting aye to table. Supervisors German, Supervisor Stigler, and I voting nay. So the motion to table does not pass. Is there a motion to act on acceptance of the award of bid? I will make the motion then to concur with the recommendation from Engineer Janelli from Ruckert and Melke, Inc., to award the 2020 road program contract to Wolf Paving Incorporated in the amount of $268,182.50, and I so move.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion.
So the item bids for Beheim Road east of Guthrie, I see Payne and Dolan being the low bidder at $143,567. For Glengarry, Big Bend Road to Charles, I see Wolf as being the low bidder at $67,190. And then on the Glengarry Road, Charles to Mola, I see Stark Paving as being the low bidder at $50,075, which would be a total of $260,832.20. Would seem to me to be the way to go to save $8,000. More than $8,000. I believe it was in our bid spec that we could accept these individually, is it not?
Why don't we look and see if we can chase that down? That's a good question.
Are you saying pick and choose one from this contractor and one from this contractor?
Well, sure, why wouldn't we?
I don't believe a bid's ever been written. I'll be shocked. It says you can pick and choose which of the projects you wanna do, but not that you can pick the one contractor to do this one and this one to do it. I've never seen a contract this time, and I'm not even sure it's legal. But go ahead and check it.
I'm fairly confident we've done that in the past. If it's not with the road paving project, I'm certain that we did it with, either the patch or the, we've done it with at least one of our road projects since I've been on this board.
Did we notify the contractors when they sent us these prices that we could possibly do that though? Because I guarantee the prices would change.
That's, I believe the chairman is looking at.
I will agree with your representation that we have done that in the past, and I have objected to that in the past because I think it's just flat wrong.
Oh, well, okay. I guess I wonder out loud, if that wasn't an option to us, why would they be bid individual projects? But
I think the reason for some of that on Glengarry is because it's too different, there's that wetland area along the woods on Glengarry that's gonna have to be dug out and re-gravelled again. I think that costs more than the section from there east. So it's probably why there's a different price on that, because that's, requires more work. It's not just a normal pave over.
I do note under evaluation of bids, and this is within the, well, there's a couple of things. Under Article 18, basis of bid, and this is under the instructions to bidders. I'll read this for what it's worth. It says, unit price, bidders shall submit a bid on a unit price basis for each item of work listed in the unit price section of the bid form. The quote bid price, unquote, sometimes referred to as the extended price for each unit price bid item, will be the product of the estimated quantity which the owner or its representatives have set forth in the bid form for the item, the corresponding bid unit price offered by the bidder. The total of all unit price items will be the sum of these bid prices. Such total will be used by the owner for bid comparison purposes. The final quantities and contract price will be determined in accordance with paragraph 1303 of the general conditions. Discrepancies between the multiplication of units of work and unit prices will be resolved in favor of the unit prices. Discrepancies between the indicated sum of the column figures and the correct sum thereof will be resolved in favor of the correct sum. And I note under evaluation of bids, there's standard language about the owner reserving the right to reject any or all bids. It says if owner awards the contract of the work, such award shall be to the responsible bidder submitting the lowest responsive bid. That's written in singular language. Evaluation of bids and evaluating bids, owner will consider whether or not the bids comply with the prescribed requirements. Such alternates, unit prices, and other data as may be requested in the bid form. For the determination of the apparent low bidder, when unit price bids are submitted, bids will be compared on the basis of the total of the products of the estimated quantity for each item and unit price bid for that item together with any lump sums. So that may not answer the question definitively, but it does speak of such award being to the responsible bidder submitting the lowest responsive bid. You want to see this any further, Mike?
I'm not gonna read it now.
Okay. So, yep. Further discussion? We've got a motion. I believe I made the motion. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it was seconded by Supervisor German. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so I have that motion passing 3-2 with Supervisor German, Supervisor Stigler, and I voting aye, and Supervisors Durr and Radke voting nay. Have I got that correct? Okay. Item C is discussion and possible action on road maintenance, slag, crack fill, and patching bids. Jerry, Public Works people, Jerry and Paul have put some information together, I think is in the packet. Jerry, do you want to explain, just a quick minute, the information you put together? Can folks?
Well, yeah, we went out and we basically re-rated all the roads. I know you had a firm come in and do a Pacer rating on them, and I didn't necessarily agree with some of the ratings. I mean, some of them I thought were they were a little shy in one department, a little better in other departments. But anyhow, we re-rated the roads and whatever. And we last year in your packet, I believe it was Exhibit C, like a big plum thing. You've got Arlo Drive, Coppersmith, Woodside Drive, and Court, Woodlily, Country Lane, Honey Acres, and Creekside. Those were all roads that were not done last year. Okay, I mean they were all flex patched, crack filled, and ready to go. And it didn't get done last year. There's like one road that probably needs a little crack filling this year, and it's ready to go again. So my recommendation is those roads at best get done this year, and the box below is roads that we recommend. You know, the DPW recommendation should get done this year. Clearly, those didn't get done last year. I don't know, what the numbers will come in at, and so I don't know. When you bid that out, you can bid it out as a lump sum project, or they bid it road to road, which is kind of nice. Where you can kind of, all right, we can, how much money we got, we can, we'll get done what we should obviously get done what we didn't get done last year. And maybe we can, if we got a couple extra bucks, we can get a couple of those other roads done, and I think that would make sense. So that's the DPW recommendation. It's kind of where I stand there. Like I say, we didn't get anything. Everything went out a little bit late last year, and it got a little late in the year, and it was too late to get it done. And I agreed with that. We're trying to get this done early, so that the bid gets out, and we kind of stepped up the start time a little bit earlier than last year. We can't start doing road work in October. It's just too late, So, but that's the DPW recommendation, and I just want to see something get moved forward, so we don't fall another year behind.
Okay, board discussion, questions of Jerry or whatever? I guess I'll just make one comment about, and it harkens back a bit to the place we were before. I'm anxious to see this get out to bid. Want to express appreciation for all the time and effort, Jerry, that you and I know Paul was involved in putting that together. I do think we need to clarify, and we might need your help, Attorney Macy, on whether we can pick and choose or piecemeal these things. I do know we've done that in the past, and that concerns me in terms of a bidding procedure.
And I don't know prices. Obviously probably went up this year. I've got the prices for what they didn't do last year,
right?
Which I can clearly give to you, and I can kind of go off the lengths of the roads and square footage and stuff and kind of get close. But not like paving, you know, they get a square foot for paving or whatever. You almost have you have to have a contractor come in and give you prices. Something that how many pounds of
Okay. Okay.
I answered that for you.
Yeah,
I'm not,
fair,
my field of expertise,
fair
you know.
enough, fair enough, and we're not asking or expecting you to do that. That isn't the issue. Pleasure of the board. Does anybody share my concern or not? Or do you have other concerns? Are you comfortable?
The concern I have with the slag seal is I'd like to see Janelli maybe look into that and do some specs up for that. Being
Okay.
that there is one company that is only bidding that now. I'd like to see possibly the granite also brought into it.
Okay,
You know, and I understand what Supervisor German's saying, and they're, okay, let's call it chip seal, you know, that's basically what it is. We don't have to call it slag. We can have, 3-4 companies come in, and bid it. They want to bid it granite, they want to bid it slag, whatever, however you want to do it. I hate to say it, but Scott Construction, and I think David knows this, they kind of got the handle on the market as far as the slag goes. So that makes it a little tough. We've tried the granite, and the granite, I mean, yeah, it's a good product. It's a good product too. I personally like the slag, because of the slag. One, the road stays nice and black. It keeps it about 5-10 degrees warmer in the winter. The snow melts off it better. If it's done right, I mean, I got roads out there that are 7 years, and they're still in nice shape, you know?
okay, well, we're gonna move on, thank you. I mean, I think the issues are in front of us. We're sitting on the 23rd of March here. I don't mean to speak for everybody else, but I think we know we need to move this along more quickly than we have in the past and not let it run late in the season. I personally think there are some questions out there about how we put the bid out in terms of product and how we advertise it in terms of how, well, I understand, but just hold on, just hold on a minute. I mean, the other thing is identification of low bidder. I think Supervisor Dorr brought up a valid point previously. I want to hear from some of the rest of you. I'm not personally comfortable moving ahead with this tonight, but I need to hear from the rest of you.
Well, can we take the recommendations here that we have here that need to be done, put those out on bid, and then have it in the bid that if it's too high, we can pick and choose at that point which roads we're not gonna do then on priorities?
Unless it's spelled that out, and Attorney Macy may want to weigh in, and I mean, unless that's abundantly cleared out identified in the bid solicitation, I personally have concerns about picking and choosing after we bid. You got any thoughts on that, John?
Well, if we've done it in the past and it hasn't been a problem in the past, and there's never been any litigation over it, I'm not aware of anybody who doesn't bid with us because of that. I mean, we just passed up an opportunity to save $8,000. I think we have an obligation to get the best deal that we can.
Just hold.
Kind of weighing in on this, maybe I'm speaking out of turn.
No, not at the moment. Hang on. Just wait. Jerry, just wait a minute. I've kind of directed that question to Attorney Macy, and I guess I appreciate it. We get a chance to weigh in. I am concerned about the bidding procedures.
Which of these are you speaking of? The crack filling, the slag, I've got.
Yes, I mean, part of the discussion is we got multiple roads. Can we pick and choose different roads for crack filling and slag and all that kind of stuff after we bid? Can we go pick and choose? And maybe that's defined in the bid spec. We've had that discussion previously, whether we can just go to the grocery store and say, get this from grocery store A, this from grocery store B, grocery store B, C. And unless that is clearly spelled out in the specifications, and maybe it is, can anybody identify that?
It has been in the past.
Is it in the spec? You've got it in front of you. Do
I
we
didn't
have that
read the
there?
spec. I got this packet a couple of days ago for a jam-packed meeting that I thought was gonna be a relatively short meeting to approve a referendum request. So I haven't had an opportunity
Okay.
to scour the bid spec from top to bottom.
All right, well, let's ask real simply. Are you prepared to move ahead on this tonight? And let's cut to the chase. I'm all about shortening up this meeting too, and we go to a formal vote. I'm not prepared to move ahead with where we're at tonight.
All right, then I'll make a motion that we table the action on road maintenance, slag, crackville, and patching bids.
I'll second the motion. Okay, motion to table was made by Supervisor Durr. I second it to table action on road maintenance, slag, crack fill, and patching of bids. Everybody understand the motion to table? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passed unanimously, and we'll pick that up in due course. Thank you. Item D, discussion and possible action on a resolution to adopt the first amended cooperative boundary plan with the town of Brookfield and to transmit the first amended cooperative boundary plan to the State of Wisconsin Department of Administration. The Department of Administration on our proposed cooperative boundary plan with the town of Waukesha the town of Brookfield rather, didn't accept it. They didn't reject it. They basically sent it back and said 3 of 6 criteria were not met. 2 of 6 were and 1 did not apply. And as a response to that, the town of Brookfield has taken the lead to amend that cooperative boundary plan. I think you've got all of that proposed first amendment in your packets of information. So what's before us tonight is whether we're prepared to act on that. And if we are, and if we were to do so favorably, my understanding is that the town of Brookfield may take that up at a meeting tomorrow night, and it might be then returned to the DOA as early as Wednesday. And I believe they have 30 days then to act on that at the DOA. Kathy and John, do I have that fundamentally correct?
What is the resolution number, Madam Clerk? 2020R?
Yeah, we don't have a resolution until you pass it.
Okay,
Once it's passed, then I'll put a number in it.
so then I'll make a motion to accept the resolution to transmit the first amended cooperative boundary plan with the town of Brookfield to the Wisconsin Department of Administration.
Okay,
Ask that we said the word accept, we adopt.
yeah.
I'm sorry, thank you, that we adopt the resolution.
Okay, is there a second
I'll
to the
second
motion?
that.
Okay, so the motion was made by Supervisor Durr, seconded by Supervisor Stigler to take action on the resolution to adopt the first amended cooperative boundary plan with the town of Brookfield and to transmit the first amended cooperative boundary plan to the State of Wisconsin Department of Administration. Does everybody understand the motion? Okay, then all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Item E is discussion and possible action on a resolution to initiate procedure for incorporating town of Waukesha as a village by providing for referendum. You have a proposed resolution, I think, in front of you, backing up just a bit the efforts that the town of Waukesha has taken to attempt to incorporate as a village began, I believe, in July of last year. So this has been ongoing for some 9 months or thereabouts. May? All right, well, May. Okay. It's been ongoing for 10 months or 10 plus months. It has involved a great deal of time, effort, and expense, in addition to thanking fellow members of the board here who have put a lot of time and effort into this, particularly Supervisor Durr as well as Supervisor Stigler, Radke, and German. Also, we wouldn't be where we're at today without a great deal of effort diligence put forth by Clerk Treasurer Kathy Nicholas. I would like to acknowledge her efforts. Attorney John Macy, we would not be here without all the effort he has put forth in this matter and the good advice he's given us. Not here tonight, but Christy DeMaster was an independent consultant that we hired from Trilogy. She worked tirelessly, and I think that is particularly accurate because she burned the midnight oil a number of times, largely with regard to the TIF district, which we were successful in passing. She put forth incredible effort on that. Don't want to leave out, they were a bit minor rules, but our town planner, Sean Malarkey, and our town engineer, Chris Janelli from Rupert and Milk. And if I missed anybody, well, I did miss some people in that. There were an awful lot of town residents and citizens who wrote letters, who talked to people, who supported this at every turn. And if I've missed somebody, remind me, but I think tip of the hat goes to all those people. So where we're at, the state statute 66.0307 gave us an opportunity, if we could fulfill 8 different criteria, 8 elements, to be able to put this before the town voters for a referendum. We succeeded. The final element or piece came into place this morning, which was the approval by the State Department of Administration to our cooperative boundary agreement with the town of Vernon. Had that not come to pass, we wouldn't be acting on it tonight. So that's just a little bit of the background. We got a resolution in front of us. If this were to be passed, it would provide for a referendum of town residents to incorporate as a village, and that referendum would take place on May 5th, as proposed in the resolution of this year. We have to wait a minimum of 6 weeks after we adopt this resolution in order to go to vote. We knew way back last year, going in the time that this would take, that it would be virtually impossible to coincide this with the April election that comes up 2 weeks from tomorrow. If we could have done that, we would have, but this had all the time parameters to it. Anybody else want to add anything to the process part of it? I guess I will look, do we need to read in any part of the resolution? Do we need to paraphrase or summarize any of it? What do we need to do?
I think Attorney Macy was going to read into the record the resolution in entirety.
Well, I wanted to go through it in line by line, but we actually most of us had time to do that and make our comparisons before the meeting started.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to continue on your comments of the
Sure,
hard work
please
done.
do.
I just want to also acknowledge the reality is the people who worked least on this is probably the board, and the staff is really who put in the yeoman's work. And while this may not be a popular opinion, I just want to point out that the person who worked the hardest on it and probably for the least amount of money was the town clerk treasurer, who at the time was also our administrator. And again, this may not be popular, but it is shameful that this board could not see in the middle of all of this the hard effort that was being put in and extend the administrator an opportunity to continue a contract for 1 year and basically tell her you will work at our beck and call or not work at all. She was under a contract where she performed admirably. She continued to do so even after it was taken away from her. And the fact that we acknowledge somebody who put in so much effort to get to this point was not offered a continued contract for at least 1 year, in my opinion, as an entire board, a board that I sit on, is shameful.
All right, anything else? Anything positive or uplifting?
Sometimes
Okay,
you
you
just
wanna go
gotta
through it,
call
Jen?
out the way it is.
Well, we're not going to argue about it tonight, Mike.
Not looking to argue.
I understand that, but to say that we
So I'll
demanded
make a
her.
motion
No, let me just
to
finish.
adopt the
Don't, you're not
resolution.
going to interrupt me. Hold on a minute. To say that we demanded her to work at our beck and call is flat out untrue. Go ahead if you'd like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution to initiate the procedure of incorporating the town of Waukesha as a village as provided for referendum.
is your motion by providing for referendum on May 5th, 2020?
It is.
Is that your motion?
That's what's in the
Okay.
resolution.
And I
All right.
believe there's one more change to the draft that was submitted. We're asking Kathy, I believe all the changes that we discussed, you and I discussed, have been made except for,
I changed H.
you changed H also?
Yes, I did.
So it's in final form.
Yes. Ready
Thank
for
you.
signature.
And all the changes that I've requested have been made. I have no further-
Okay, I'll second the motion. Did you want to add something more, John? Did you want to go through this?
No, I don't think, I don't think we
good.
need to belabor it. I did go through it line by line. Many of you also did also guard of the meeting independently, and unless there's someone who feels additional need to do so, I think we're in good shape.
Okay, further discussion. Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? All right, that passes unanimously.
I need to make sure I get a signature from everyone.
Sure. Then we can go on to, we will do that before we leave tonight. Item H, or 8F rather, is discussion and possible action on process to notify residents of referendum. Kathy, you and I have talked a bit about that. Do you want to tell people what we discussed?
We discussed, after speaking with a couple residents that were coming in to do some in-office absentee voting, they suggested that we definitely get something out to all our residents, so then they're aware. I suggest we send out a letter to each one of our households that explains to them what the, that we are doing a special election, what it entails, and what the benefits are of incorporating.
Okay, and I fully support that effort. The thought is that that would go out
On
sometime fairly
April 8th.
soon after the election on April 8th that she wants to get through.
I'd like, well, April 7th is the election. I'd like to not send it out until April 8th, just so it doesn't confuse our residents.
And I would be happy to work with Kathy on putting that together. Any thoughts, or any of you want to see that before it goes out, or do you support that effort?
I think it's a great idea. I think at this point, we went this far, let's finish it with a letter to each individual resident.
I think it's a great idea. I would like to hope that we would have a meeting between now and then, that we could review it as a board and approve it.
If-
Well, assume for a minute that we
I know.
won't have that. Do you want her to then send that out for comment? We cannot do a
We can't
walking
vote.
quorum on that. Do you want to have her? And I don't know how we can, I don't know
Let's
how
just
we
have
can
her
do
send
that.
it out and we'll figure it out from there, given the confines of what we're working under.
Okay.
Because I think Attorney Macy, we could all comment to her. She could combine our comments and edit it as appropriate, and then put it back out for additional comment, or is that walking the line too close?
I've always had concerns with doing that. That's what you're supposed to have meetings to do.
I know. Well, I'd be happy to come in for another meeting. But I'd leave that up to my fellow board members, given the current environment.
I have no problem with the meeting myself. If we have to do it, we have to do it. I mean, I can do either way. If you guys want to do this and send it out, that's fine with me too. It's
So
your judgment.
if we could do it, you would like to have a meeting just for the purpose of reviewing that?
If that's what we need to do, I'd be comfortable with it. I mean, I don't have a problem with having another meeting.
Okay,
I
do you
understand
have a
some do.
problem, do you have a problem with Kathy and I working to put this together? And I know she's gonna be really busy for the next
No.
week or something. Do you have a problem with that?
No,
No, I don't
no, I
either.
do not.
Does anybody else have a problem with that?
Nope.
I mean, I think we're all on the same page. We just voted unanimously for this. I don't think there's any hidden agendas here.
No, my only thought of that, Mr. Chairman, is to make sure that anybody who has thoughts about arguments that can be made in the positive have an opportunity to contribute, that's all.
You cannot do a positive or negative. This is like a school referendum.
I understand.
It has to be strictly the facts. So you can't do an advocacy piece.
Okay.
You cannot spend money to do an advocacy piece. I want to make that very clear. This has to be a very straightforward, facts-only piece, just like school referendum.
I think the better route on this, and I'm gonna suggest it, and I know Kathy's gonna be incredibly busy with the election thing. I think the better route, if you'll trust me to do it, I'll put something together and run it by Attorney Macy so it passes muster. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yep.
Is that appropriate, John?
Yes, but the motion would read then that the chairman is authorized to, with, you know, in working with the clerk and attorney to draft and send out the notice of the election, of the, yeah. That's what the motion.
I would gladly make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, further discussion?
The only thought is if the election does get pushed, is there a way to combine this with the new date? I'm thinking probably not.
Only if it was after the fifth.
No, only if it is the fifth.
Only if it is the fifth. Only if it is the fifth.
And I don't think you wanna undo this resolution.
No,
No,
no.
no, 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 no.
No. We've come too far. All right, as long as we're in discussion, is there, if we're putting out an informational piece and it's informational and not advocacy, is there any thought or a desire when this goes out, if we are still in the environment that we are in with the coronavirus and stuff, do you want any informational stuff put on that? How government is functioning, would that be an appropriate, and I'm not necessarily advocating for that, would you suggest we limit it simply to the referendum issue and quit?
I would.
Okay, then we'll take that advice. Nothing else. Everybody comfortable with that? Okay, then we've got a motion, a second. I forgot who made them, but I think the clerk's got that information, right? Supervisor German, Supervisor Stigler. Does everybody understand the motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. We are on to, which is a bit of a transition into it, but item 8G, we've got discussion and possible action on meetings going forward with the concern for COVID-19. Not sure, perhaps takes a formal action, but we would have regularly scheduled a meeting this Thursday, which would be the 26th. We've taken care of many of those agenda items. Certainly, we could take action to scratch that meeting. One thing I think we need to talk about going forward are a couple of things, and maybe John or Kathy, you can even advise or counsel us a bit on it, whether we take any kind of emergency action, what we can and cannot do, paying bills going forward, things of that nature. Do you have any thoughts you want to share with us?
Looking with Attorney Macy, looking through our code, it does not specifically state that the board has to meet to approve the accounts payable, although that's something that we've done consistently in the past. The clerk treasurer can, is to definitely notify the board of our accounts payable. Once a month is what our code says. So I would suggest, if you so choose, that you allow the accounts payable to go out as on a regular basis every 2 weeks that we currently do. I will send out the document that we do before every AP of what is on the what checks we're writing out, and the chairman can review anything that we'd want to pull.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve the clerk treasurer to continue to pay bills in the fashion she has until we are back into a regular meeting schedule.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's on the agenda, is it?
No,
It's,
it's not.
Sorry.
Yeah,
No,
so we
you're
don't
right.
have to
Thank
make.
you.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the president, the chairman has not issued an emergency declaration, as most of my clients have, and he's looking for that type of input
Okay.
to put into his declaration. So I think it's appropriate under whether to have meetings and how to go forward,
Well,
give
what I
them
was,
guidance.
what I
Yeah.
was thinking in concept is
Sure.
that she would just continue to pay bills as she typically does, make the bills available for any of us to review on the back table as she typically does, and send out the register as she typically does. I think that keeps us enough in the loop that if there's anything that would come up, that we could, contact her and
I mean,
question.
typically, and those are dual signatures, typically takes her signature and mine, so for the ones that go out by check, I mean, if I've got question about that, I won't sign the check. So that's a procedure we could follow. I think the other stuff we're trying to look to, and again, whether we make an emergency declaration or not, and that could either be done, is it possible by the board, or I could do that unilaterally? What are the options
No,
for
you
that?
have to do it unilaterally, and
All
at
right.
the next meeting, the board has to affirm it, amend it, or repeal it. And until we have another meeting, the emergency declaration. Now, we don't have all the federal guidelines yet, and we don't have all the state guidelines yet, but there's some confusion out there that in order to be eligible for state and federal money, you have to have an emergency declaration. Now, that's under a different law. That's when your emergency coordinator wants to get federal or state money, your emergency coordinator. So I just wanted, there's some communities out there who think we need this, but most every community is having their chief presiding officer pass the declaration so business can continue without meetings until it's safe to have meetings. And that's all I can tell you.
Okay.
I fully believe that the federal and state guidelines will ultimately probably say you have to have this resolution.
So do you think, as we sit here tonight, that that would be an advisable thing to do?
Yes.
I
Okay.
have to say the same thing. I've been
Okay.
thinking about this, and I think there's no reason to be having plan commission meetings when we have public comments and things and having the place full. I mean, it just doesn't seem to make any sense to continue doing that until this thing's over.
Okay, let's assume for a minute then that we do that forthwith. Does that then address the issue of whether we do or don't have any meetings going forward?
The resolution could, yes. It would say meetings will be at the call of the chairman as, as needed. No meetings will be called, we put that kind of stuff
Understand
in the
that.
resolution.
And I guess I'm assuming that that language would be in the resolution. Does anybody have a different perspective on that? Okay, then this is set up for discussion and possible action. Is there any action that the board needs to take on that other than having had given their advice, which is not formal action? Do they need to do anything more?
They don't need to. They can give you guidance and you can do it in the emergency proclamation.
Okay. Then it would be my intention to do that unless anybody has
Well, let me
significant
ask one more
concern or
question
objection.
about this. Now, what does that do with the election? Does that affect the elections, Jan?
Very little.
Very little?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and every day we get new guidance, sometimes. as you
And that would
said,
come
more
from the
than once a
elections
day,
board?
as the chief indicated. Pardon?
That would come from the elections board, anything pertaining to that?
The governor,
The governor.
the federal court ordered something on the election the other day, so I'm not sure where the guidance is gonna come.
Okay.
But stay tuned, tomorrow the governor's announcing his his stay at home, let's all stay home, resolution, proclamation. And he's gonna give us a lot of guidance as who that applies to, and then, the election will probably be next. I fully expect that the courts are gonna get involved in the election.
Can
There's
I-
been lawsuits.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
In
Get
your-
up by your microphone.
In your proclamation, do you make the decision if all I forgot what they call it, I was gonna say emergency, but we would be
Non-essential?
non-essential personnel be off until a specific date, or,
Generally
Advice on
not.
that?
okay,
Um,
just checking.
Although there's policy decisions, that's only a policy decision, I'll cut to the quick. Our guidance at this point, subject to what Labor Council may tell you, but our guidance from the non-labor side of it is, don't make any decisions now. We have no idea what the feds and the state are gonna order. You do with your employees and what you have to pay them and not pay them, and to make a decision prematurely seems to be, if they're gonna pay them, and you've already made a decision to pay them, you may have to undercut your ability to get reimbursed from the feds and the state to pay them. Most
Understood.
communities are saying, well, first, everyone thinks that they're gonna say all municipal employees are essential employees. Okay, now, they may not, but they're gonna say, we think they're gonna say government offices are essential and all such staff people are essential employees. That's not to say they can't work from home, but that they're not going to be fired or laid off or things like that. They're going to be deemed essential and, you know, be working. And if they don't wanna work, they have to use their vacation or sick leave or comp time, and then you'll deal with the reimbursement of that after the fact, and we find out what the feds and state. I can tell you there's a few communities who have not done that, but that's what we see most of the communities doing at this point. But the resolution doesn't usually go into that detail. It does allow him guidance as to, you know, allowing him to work from home and things like that. You know, some people have opted not to work. They don't feel safe, and they're taking vacation and comp time and sick leave.
Okay, everybody got a good sense where we're going with that? Then we'll move on. Item 9, citizens' comments. Does anybody feel compelled to speak tonight?
Great job, thank you.
Just a real quick thing, if you want to, you are welcome. If you want to use the common microphone, we got handy wipes. If you've got a cell phone and you'd sooner dial in on the cell phone and not use the microphone, or if you want to shout aloud, up to you.
I'm not
Good.
concerned, thank you.
Name and address, please.
Ryan Bedford, W230S4513 Milky Way Road. Interesting comments up here. First on the referendum, which is a big referendum for the town citizens. And we're setting a date, yet we can't set the next board date because of this COVID-19. So how is it that we can say that all the citizens are gonna be safe to come vote on May 5th or whatever date that is, when we can't even set the next board meeting? It just doesn't seem like seems like we're prematurely setting a date, and then who has the authority in 4 to 5 weeks when they're saying, well, we're still in this safer at home policy by the governor, and who's gonna then at that point say that the election needs to be put off another 4 weeks? I mean, those are things that, it's just amazing how we were so definitive on that May 5th, but yet everything else is pretty ambiguous when it comes to dates right now, and don't make any decisions because we don't know what's gonna happen, but yet we were so definitive on the May 5th. I mean, we don't wanna deter anybody from coming out and voting for that referendum, so to me, it just seems like we're trying to set something that we don't know anything about.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, if there are no other citizens' comments, a motion for adjournment would be in order at this time.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second the motion. Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 7:31 PM. Thank you all.